Ever wish you could? Like, just grab a 3D model and drop it right into your design.
Hmm.
You know, as easily as using a regular image.
Yeah, I get that. It's a real pain point for a lot of designers. Trying to work with 3D, especially if it's not something you do every day, it can eat up so much time.
Totally. But hold on, because today we're diving into Substance 3D Viewer. It's this free tool from Adobe, and it lets you bring 3D models right into your usual design apps.
And it really does make the whole process a lot smoother.
It does. Think of it like this. Imagine you're opening a 3D model, but it's as simple as opening a JPEG. You can view it, spin it around, adjust the lighting, all the basic stuff, even if you're not a 3D modeling whiz.
That's one of the things I like most about Substance 3D Viewer. It makes 3D a lot more approachable, even if you don't know the first thing about polygons or textures. You know, for designers who need to create things like product mockups or architectural visualizations, even just adding a 3D touch to an illustration, this tool can be a game changer.
Okay, so it's easy to use, got it. But where it gets really cool is when you connect it with Photoshop.
Oh, for sure. That integration is a game changer for designers. Imagine just dragging a 3D model from Substance 3D Viewer and dropping it straight into your Photoshop file.
And it's not just a flat image at that point, is it?
Nope, not at all. It turns into a smart object. Think of it as like a container that holds all the 3D data right there in your Photoshop file.
So even though you're in Photoshop, you can still work with it like a 3D model.
Exactly. Need to move the model around at the last minute? No problem. Want to adjust the lighting to get a better match for your scene? Go for it. It's all about having the 3D model work for you, not the other way around.
That's awesome. So any changes you make in Substance 3D Viewer, they'll show up in Photoshop right away. No more exporting and importing back and forth.
You got it. It keeps your workflow smooth and gives you a lot of flexibility. You're not stuck with just one view or setup, which is a lifesaver when you're on a tight deadline.
That makes a lot of sense. So far, we've talked about how Substance 3D Viewer can handle viewing and even tweaking existing 3D models. But what if you don't have a model ready to go? Can it help you create something in 3D from scratch?
This is where things get really interesting. Believe it or not, Substance 3D Viewer can generate high-quality images from text prompts, and it does it using 3D models.
Hold on, so we're talking AI-powered 3D image generation. That's wild.
It is. But instead of a flat image, you get a full 3D scene that you can then manipulate. It's a game changer for rapid prototyping, trying out different visual styles, or even just adding some depth to your mood boards.
I can see how that would be huge for someone who's still getting comfortable with 3D. But for someone who's already a pro, how much time can this really save them?
Well, that depends on how complex the project is, of course. But think about it. No more endlessly searching stock sites for the perfect 3D asset, no more wrestling with importing and exporting between software. Substance 3D Viewer simplifies that whole process. It's like having all your 3D tools right there in the software you're already using. You can pull in models, change things up on the fly, and boom, those changes show up in your project instantly. Think about how much time that saves, time you can then use to make your designs even better and let your creativity really flow.
Saving time is awesome, but what about file compatibility? Sometimes, new software means having to learn a whole bunch of new file types.
You're in luck. Substance 3D Viewer works seamlessly with all those industry standard formats. USD, OBJ, FBX, even STL, which is a big one for 3D printing.
So if I'm already using certain 3D assets, chances are they'll just work. That's a relief. It sounds like Adobe wanted to make Substance 3D Viewer as user-friendly as possible, which makes sense because it's a free public beta right now.
Exactly. They want designers to try it out, see how it fits into what they're already doing. And honestly, having played around with it quite a bit myself, I think it could become a must-have for a lot of designers.
I can see why you'd say that.
Yeah.
It really seems like a tool like this could change how we think about design workflows. I mean, traditionally, working with high-quality 3D has always felt kind of separate from the rest of the design process.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like there's this wall between 2D and 3D, and you have to learn this whole new language just to get started. But Substance 3D Viewer is breaking down that wall.
Absolutely. And the implications of that are huge. Think about what that kind of accessibility could mean. Imagine working on product mockups, where you can just drop in a 3D model, tweak the lighting so it's perfect, even play around with the materials, and you're doing it all without leaving your existing workflow.
And think about how much more impactful your presentations would be. Instead of just showing a flat image, you're giving the client this tangible, almost real-life experience of their vision.
It's like bridging the gap between imagination and reality. Designers could become so much more efficient and effective this way. No more going back and forth between different programs just to make small adjustments.
Exactly. And because you're working faster, you've got more time to experiment, fine-tune those details. It's about raising the quality of your work while saving you time, a win-win for designers.
I'm convinced. This all sounds fantastic, but let's be real. Every new tool has a bit of a learning curve. How easy is Substance 3D Viewer to pick up, especially for someone who's already comfortable with Photoshop or Illustrator?
Adobe did a really good job making the interface intuitive. It's clean, easy to understand, and they've got tons of tutorials to help you get up to speed fast.
So no need to spend hours and hours with a complicated manual. That's always a plus. It sounds like they designed this for anyone to be able to learn.
They did. You can start small, maybe just dragging and dropping a model, messing around with the lighting. Then, as you get more comfortable, you can start adding those more advanced features into how you work.
It's like dipping your toes in the 3D pool before you cannonball into the deep end. Substance 3D Viewer gives you that flexibility, which is great for building confidence. What about support for different file formats?
You'll be happy to hear that Substance 3D Viewer supports all those industry standard formats you're probably already using. That means you can bring in your existing 3D assets without having to worry about compatibility issues or spending a ton of time converting files.
It really does seem like Adobe thought of everything to make 3D design more accessible and efficient for designers. This is a game changer.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering designers to do what they do best, which is design. And with Substance 3D Viewer there to handle the technical stuff, the possibilities are endless.
Speaking of possibilities, where do you see this technology going? What kind of impact could it have on the design industry as a whole?
I think we're seeing a real shift in how we think about and approach design. And Substance 3D Viewer, with how smoothly it brings together 2D and 3D workflows, is leading the way.
That's a really exciting thought. It feels like we're standing at the edge of a whole new era of creativity. For you personally, what's the most exciting thing about Substance 3D Viewer?
For me, it's that ability to easily play around with 3D elements without having to interrupt my flow.
Yeah.
It's not even just about saving time, it's the creative freedom it unlocks.
Oh, I totally get that. Having the flexibility to visualize your ideas in 3D without disrupting your workflow, that can be really powerful.
For sure. And Substance 3D Viewer makes that a reality for designers at any skill level, which is really something.
It's like having this secret weapon in your design toolbox. It really does feel like Substance 3D Viewer is changing things up in a big way for designers.
It is. And you know what the best part is? This is just the beginning. As this whole idea of integrating 2D and 3D gets smoother and smoother, it's going to completely change how we design, I think.
It's like we're at this turning point, about to enter a new creative era where the only limit is our own imaginations.
I like that. And Substance 3D Viewer is putting those tools right into designers' hands, no matter how much 3D experience they have, which is huge.
Okay, so for our listeners who are itching to dive in and try Substance 3D Viewer themselves, what's the one thing you tell them to try first? What's that aha moment that really shows them what this tool can do?
I'd say grab a simple 3D model, maybe something from Adobe stock, and bring it into Substance 3D Viewer and Photoshop, both of them.
Gotcha.
Now, just start playing around. Move the model, resize it, change the lighting in Substance 3D Viewer.
I can see it now.
And as you're doing that, watch how those changes instantly pop up in your Photoshop document. That seamless back and forth, that's the magic right there. That's when it hits you how much this tool can change the way you work.
It's like you suddenly have this 3D vision, but you haven't lost sight of your 2D canvas. It all just clicks.
Exactly. And the best part, you can try Substance 3D Viewer for free, so go ahead, download it, and get creative. You might just surprise yourself.
You might even wonder how you ever got anything done without it. It's like you've unlocked a whole new set of tools, all ready to take your designs to the next level.
And who knows, maybe Substance 3D Viewer is the thing that sparks a lifelong passion for 3D design.
That's what's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
It's opening these doors to creative possibilities that might have felt out of reach before.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Substance 3D Viewer. We hope we've inspired you to see what's possible when you bring 3D into your design process.
I second that. And remember, the best way to learn is by doing. So jump in, experiment, and most importantly, have fun with it.
And don't forget to share what you create. We always love seeing what you all come up with. Until next time, happy designing, everyone.